Hi everybody and welcome to the ProBuilder video. Today we're going to learn what ProBuilder does, how to create 3D objects inside of Unity, similar to what you would use in Blender, for example, or Maya, but this is right in Unity, which makes it very convenient. It's a simplified version compared to, say, Blender, but it gets the job done and it's very, very useful. All right, so the first thing I wanted to do is create a new scene, an empty scene, because I don't want to mess up my existing scene, that we were doing our terrain, our world building on. So I'll create a new scene by create scene, and then I renamed mine ProBuilder. I double clicked on it and opened it. So now I can see that the name of the scene is right up here above. Okay, now we just need to make sure we have ProBuilder installed in our project. There's a couple ways to check that. One is to look in your project folders. It's usually in alphabetical order, so you can see that I have it here installed in my project right here. I'm going to go back here just so don't get anyone lost. Or you can go to your package manager, which you can also find through your Windows if you don't have it already docked in your package manager here. Open up your package manager. I keep mine docked next to my hierarchy because I find it's very convenient right there. Okay, so this one looks different, of course, than 2022.3 because we're in Unity 6 and above here. So instead of having all the options in this teeny little drop down up here, we have it over here on the left hand side. So just a reminder that the first one, you can see it right here, are all of the packages that are in your project. These are all the ones in the Unity registry. This is all the assets you've downloaded from the asset store that are currently located on your hard drive. And this is what's built into the project itself when you create the project. So you will find, if you don't have ProBuilder already installed, you can find it in Unity Registry by clicking here and typing in Pro. Or you can just go down through alphabetically and find it in here. Okay. You want to make sure, of course, that it's that it's upgraded to the latest version, and you'll know this whether you see this little white arrow here. So you want to update it first to, if you have an arrow next to ProBuilder, update it first, and then you're going to download it and install it in your package, in your project. Okay, so now if I check my project and I search ProBuilder here, I can see it right here. Or of course I can look alphabetically, scroll down to ProBuilder, and I see it here. So it'll also show up down here in your project window. So now that you have ProBuilder in your project, we will start making an object in our empty scene by right-clicking and scrolling down to ProBuilder. And you'll see right away you have a bunch of different options. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and create a plane. And that gives me something to work on. Of course, I'm very zoomed out, so I'm going to zoom in here for you. And of course, when it's green, it's compiling. So just give it a minute if it turns like that kind of teal green. Okay, and here I have my ProBuilder plane. You can tell it's a ProBuilder plane because it's this gray color and it has these kind of meter markers on here. So each one of these squares is 1 meter. If I brought in a regular Unity cube by right-clicking here, 3D Object Cube, and we have it on top of our plane here, you'll see that it pretty much fits exactly in one of these meter squares because, of course, in Unity, a cube is 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. You can see the difference in the material right away between the two. I'm going to leave this one here to the side so you can see this one. So this one is basically 1, 2, 3, 4 meters by 4 meters. I can expand this, of course, by using the scale tool here and just scaling it as a game object. Or you'll see this kind of lattice looking thing right here, and this is editing for the shape. So I can click on this and edit the shape itself. Okay, once I have this in here, it'll show, oh yeah, I've got this kind of shape that I want to edit. So this gives me all these great editing tools here along the edges, and I can make it bigger here if I want. So I can pull this out and make this plane just slightly bigger. You can see the grid in the background. You can get all ADD on it or OCD and get it all pushed out exactly the way that you want it there. Okay, so I have this plane already and I can add something to it. Let's go ahead and add a ProBuilder cube. You can see now that I have a cube right here already. I'm going to click on this and you'll see that I have this little yellow dot. So I'm going to start by dragging and creating a 2x2 cube. So I'm going to click and drag to this other corner here. And when I let go of my mouse, my left mouse button, and I push up, it'll automatically create a height. And then if I click again on my left mouse button, it will complete my cube. And again, you can see just like the plane, I have these extendable handles that I can adjust it with. Okay, so now we've got kind of the basic action here going on of what we wanted to do. And you can create, this one is kind of fun, which is just a click and drag kind of crazy shape. Anything you want till you meet the original. And then you go up and you have another shape like this. This is always kind of a fun one. So I will actually delete this one. I think I have to select it to delete. I'm going to do Command Z and delete it. I want to go over a few tools that will be useful for you in ProBuilder. So we've got our wireframe, our grid visibility. So in the background you can see our grid. We can match this to our grid, our world view grid, or we can turn our world view grid off. Sometimes it gets confusing having the grid on, and sometimes it's kind of nice. This is a snapping tool, and you can use this to snap your objects one to each other or snap them in increments. So if I turn this on, you'll see that this snaps every half meter instead of just going smoothly. If I turn it off, then you can see it just slides. So this is useful sometimes if you want to get things exact. Okay, and these are our view modes that we're looking at right now. So right now you can see we're in our shaded draw mode. This means that we've got a solid looking objects with shadows. If we go here, let it compile for a second, you'll see there's no shades, just drawing without any kind of shaded or lighting. Okay, this is shaded wireframe. So if you see underneath, you can see these kind of grids underneath, and I'm going to actually go to wireframe right now. This is the triangles that make up, the mesh triangles that make up your object, your game object. And sometimes it's easier to switch between wireframe if you're trying to select parts of your object that are behind another part, and you can actually see it better that way. So most of the time you'll probably be in shaded draw mode or draw mode. Usually this one because it's lit, and if you're combining other objects like this cube here compared to this ProBuilder shape, you'll be there. Okay, you can also turn off and on gizmos over here by using this. You can change the size of your gizmos. Okay, you can fade them in and out. There's all kinds of things that you can turn off and on over here that you want for visibility or not visible. This is for your tool points if you want to have it as local, meaning local to your object, or if you want to have it to the global world, you can switch it to global. Usually it's on local, but if you have this rotated and you want it specifically towards just this object, it's a separate thing. It's easy to switch there. This is for your pivot point, which is usually in the center. So you can always change where that is as well. All right, so we're going to go here to this ProBuilder Editor here. And now we're kind of in a ProBuilder editing format. So this means we can edit our shape. So that's here again. This is our game object where we can choose it as just an object. But if we want to edit this shape using ProBuilder tools, we need to go to this ProBuilder Editor. What that does, you'll see that it's changed the tools up above here. And you've got all these extra tools all of a sudden. You've got this one, which is called a vertex tool, an edge tool, and a face tool. And then here are some things I'll go over a little bit later, hidden elements. And then this is for selecting. It makes some things a little easier, some things a little harder, depending on what you're using it for. Okay, so now that I have the editor open, I can show you what a vertex is. So vertexes are these little points here where all the different faces meet, here and here. So we have this front face, and this face. If I click on this and scroll over them, you can see a face. Okay, and then the points where they meet, of course, is the vertex. Okay, and then you've got edges where you can select your edges. Now, on all of these, each of these tools, you can use your standard toolbar of move, rotate, scale. Okay, so let's say I have my edge tool selected here. I want to select this edge or maybe this edge, and I want to move it. I could just drag and grab and move this edge tool as much as I want. I can rotate it and create some cool shapes this way. I can scale even just one side or the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my cube and let's go through these a little bit one at a time. Why would you want to do this, for example? Okay, so for example, if I want to go and select this edge tool, there's a very cool thing that you can do. You can shift and then, on your scale, shift and drag it down to create an interface, and then go to your move tool and push it in to do insets. This is always kind of nice if you're creating a frame or you're creating a barrel or you're creating a crate, something like this, or a house. You can delete a face by just selecting it and hitting backspace. So now I've got a deleted face. From the inside, I can't really see it because I haven't flipped my normals. If I wanted to flip them, I can also flip my normals here, which I'll show you in the second chapter of this on when we get into more advanced tools. Okay. In addition, like the vertex, I could choose a vertex here, and I can move it out just one point at a time. I'm going to go back and put the face back on here. If I wanted to select multiple things, multiple points at a time or multiple faces at a time, I can hold the shift key down and drag across and select. So if I'm in, let's say, my face mode, and I want to select all these. Oops, I'm not in my face mode. Sorry. I click on it, hit shift, hold the shift key down and continue clicking, and I can select multiple faces. Okay. So to undo it, I can also use the command key and take one out, command or control on the PC, and take them out one at a time. Okay, so this is the basic idea of editing a shape. Let's create another kind of shape and start editing it. So if I go here where my cube is, creating a cube, if I click on this little triangle and hold down my left mouse, you'll see that I have all kinds of different options. These are all pre-built shapes that you can use. So I can create a torus, for example, and I'm going to draw it where I want it. I'll make it 1 meter by about 1 meter, or maybe half meter, something like this. I kind of like this one. And I've got myself a new shape that's already pre-done. If I use my rotate tool, I can rotate it. If I'm in my inspector, I can actually rotate it to -90, so it's exactly straight up over here in the inspector. And go to my move tool and pull it up to the surface, or I can turn on my snapping if I wanted. So now I've got this object I can edit. I can edit this again by going from Game Object Editor into ProBuilder Editor. And now you can see all the different faces on this one. Of course, a ring is going to be much more complex of an object than a cube, and that's why it has so many more faces than this cube, because it has to create more faces to create this curve. So you have a lot more options for editing your shape here than just a cube, but a cube can become very complex if you wanted to do more and more with it. Okay, so play around with a couple of different shapes, and then let's see if we can edit a couple of different other shapes together. So I'm going to create what? A cylinder? Actually, I'll create a staircase. Where's my staircase? I don't see my staircase. There is a staircase somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Here it is. Let's create a staircase. Staircases are really always kind of fun. So now I've got a nice staircase. I have this kind of cool shortcut thing over here that I can use. It also goes over here to the inspector, very similar. So step counts, you can see I can change my step counts here, and it changes here as well. I can change the circumference here or here. So Command Z those back to normal stairs. Okay, and to go and just move this object, I can, move it here and rotate it and put it up against my cube, for example. So I could create some kind of architecture here and an object that I will bring into my world building space later. So if you wanted to create a barn, a fence, tires, a vehicle, anything like this, you can do it with these ProBuilder shapes. And in the next chapter, along with using a couple more advanced features, I'm going to show you how you can add materials to this and then make them into a prefab to bring into your world. So play around with these shapes and then watch the second video on advanced techniques for ProBuilder.